Well, thanks for hopping on the Code Review Weekly Workshop. We are going to dive into some topics pertaining to code review, except neither Yannick or I have anything to talk about. So we're going to pair up on a code review. Is that an accurate portrayal of the situation?
It is very much so.
All right, let's do it.
Full stop.
Well, let me start sharing my screen, but before I do that, let me close out, make sure I don't have any secrets around.
Can I dive bomb with another short question that's
Sure.
just coming up?
Yeah.
It is given any merge request, what is your technique to actually check, or like on a quick technique to actually check who already approved this? Asking this question because
Good
I
question.
feel like the approved by section that we're having is sometimes lying to me. And I'm currently
Yes.
looking at one of those things and it seems like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if a based on the project's rules, it's possible that a code owner that is approved is reset when new commits have been pushed. The
Yes.
intent is, hey, new commits are pushed. This isn't approved anymore. Someone needs to re-review and approve it. But what can happen is if a backend engineer has already approved that, a backend maintainer has already approved this, but it pushes front-end code changes, the backend maintainer's approval should still be relevant. It doesn't need to re-review. And so that's really up to the front-end maintainer to distinguish that. And so what I'll do is look at the commented by to see, because like most likely whoever's approved has left the comment. And so if I see this hasn't even been commented by a code owner for Ruby files, then this hasn't even been commented by a code owner for Ruby files, then it's very unlikely it was approved. But I will do this to see who's actually approved. I will control F and look for approved in the logs. And so I see Enrique approved. But if I'm looking for like a specific one, I'll see commented by some Ruby code owner. I'll see who commented it and I'll look up their name. It's like, did they actually approve? And
yeah. And with the control F approach, like let's imagine like a random MR, I would review it, I would approve it, author would still make some other changes, and my approval would then become invalid. With the there would be like a log entry that I approved this thing, but there is no entry that like this approval has now go out of state or whatever it is. Is it?
Yeah, it won't say that you unapproved it. That'll only say you
I see.
unapproved
Okay.
it when you've actually unapproved it. Yeah.
It feels like that would be a great feature to enhance this thing.
Yeah.
That is not what, not what there. But yeah.
So
okay.
I'll regularly, if a backend approver was like a week ago, and then we went kind of back and forth, I find myself with, and they rebased or something. I will regularly compare the changes of like anytime someone's done a big rebase. I look at the diff of this diff compared to last MR diff. And if there are back in, sometimes there's actually back in changes. And I was like, oh, well, we added this thing. We'll need to get the backend maintainer to look at it again. And so you do have to sometimes dive into what's actually changed between an approval and now. But that's kind of like the job of maintainers. So it's like for maintainers is making sure all the boxes are checked. And
yes, do agree. I just full stop. I just think that it will probably like these things coming in there. What we're seeing on the left is basically somewhat of a timeline. Like all the comments and then the gray stripe that is going through this. that would probably be a great thing that would highlight for any approval what actually has been approved.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that would be
I guess here's the little icon you can look for. It's very little.
yeah, and maybe even like in best case, even in the commit history, even though that won't cover a rebase or something, and squashing and all of these things, but that's about hygiene, I suppose.
Yeah, so you can just
Okay.
look for this SVG approval.
Gotcha.
I'm joking. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, that was helpful.
Yep.
Now off to UMR. What you got?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, that would be cool for me to, if I could somehow organize these. That would be interesting. That's a good idea. All right. So this is actually I was wanting to show this one because this is actually part 2 MR. So the target branch points to sorry, the source branch points to a non-default target branch. And so this is a different MR. And then this one is just iteratively building on it, which is a great thing. But one of the things that's interesting here is when I try to do my reset changes here. When I try to do my curl to mr diff get apply, it blows up because the master branch doesn't have the changes that this branch does.
Can you quickly put the link in the chat? I want to see if my
Yes, I think I put it in.
Well.
I put it in the agenda, but I can.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, see, let's do it. Okay.
Yeah, doesn't make sense though.
Yep. So what I'll do is that's when, rather than working on top of master and applying changes on master, I'll actually check out this branch and then apply the MR diff on top of this one. So I'll actually check out that target branch and get the latest from the target branch. And then I can curl this thing.
Yep, which is kind of the same thing, but different in a way.
Yep. I mean, and so it's just, I think something that you don't realize most normal MRs that aren't touching other branches is they go to master. And so when you're just always working on master, you can just easily just push everything on top of master. But sometimes you're reviewing an MR that doesn't touch master. As a maintainer, I'm not going to merge this MR. This is just reviewing this iteration of code and assuring, oh yeah, we're all good.
The problem, a question regarding the process of this. Like, let's imagine for a second, changes in here are all looking perfectly fine. It gets all the approvals and actually gets merged into the feature branch listed in there.
You said accidentally gets merged into the
eventually, I said, like, on purpose, really, like this, like, let's process is going just fine, everything's perfectly fine. Let's merge it into the other feature branch listed in here. This feature branch, I suppose, will get or shall get merged into master someday. Is there any, like, this diff will be huge. Is there any indication that the changes have been reviewed before?
So that's a really good question. So I think the actual approach is, and I don't know if David has left a comment about this. Okay, I'll leave a comment about this. And so rather than merging everything into a big feature branch and then merging that feature branch, which I've done, and I don't recommend.
Gotcha.
It is, don't merge this MR until the one before it is merged.
Yeah, I would like that would have been my approach as well. Like you can do this like as kind of a draft mode thingy,
Yes.
and then keep on rebasing your MR. That's
Yep.
okay, but merging them all together, that will just create a massive diff.
Yes. Yes. Yep. So
Okay, I
that's
see.
this is the preferred way of handling it. And as the MR author that sets up a chain of these MRs, I'll usually have let me see if I can just find an example. This is probably an example. Yeah. So I'll usually have so I have my part 1 MR, and then part 2 points to part 1 branch, point 3 points to part 2 branch. But I'll put
Mm-hmm.
at the top of these, I'll put a what am I gonna put? What do I put? Oh well, I can't find it. But anyways, I'll usually put like a to do. Don't merge this. Like we gotta wait for this other thing to be merged, and we'll rebase and retarget. And but what I love
Mm.
about doing it this way is the changes are cohesive and small. I'm able to vertically slice my iterations, so I'm not just horizontally slicing. Like here's one huge component, deal with it. I'm able to see how everything works in integration, but grows together.
Mm.
But I can get these reviewed in parallel. I love that. And that's a great uh productivity boost when if I put all of these into one MR, it would be incredibly daunting and it would take a
Mm.
long time for someone to process it all and feel okay about it.
Mm.
But if in reality it's 3 straightforward changes, which someone upon looking at it will be like, oh yeah, that's great, let's do it.
Mm.
Man, that's gonna go by so quickly. I just can parallelize all the reviews and then just say, hey,
Yeah.
here's just wait on it. And so surprisingly, I could see how splitting up in Mars sounds like a lot of work, but it really helps things go faster.
Mm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
That's like
anyways,
sorry, go ahead.
no. What were we gonna say?
I was just reporting that I have not yet been that brave. Like I split up MRs, I built MR chains, but for the reviews, then I would kind of serialize the reviews, basically being like, okay, let's wait until this thing gets approved and then start with the other. But yeah, you can with a couple of explanations, you can probably speed this up.
I want to see. Yeah, I want to see if I can find another. I want to see if I can find another one. Let me see if this one might be one too. This is on the Web ID project. Yeah, it was only 2 parts. So that's not a good example. Um, but this is actually how I normally do things. Is I create one gnarly MR of like this is my dream, all the changes I want to make. And then from that I pull what's the change, what's the smallest change that someone looking at it be like, yes, let's do this.
Mm.
And so after making one like huge gnarly change, I'll iterate over that. And that's so helpful to me because I really need to see it all sketched out kind of before I can detail. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
I see.
Uh okay, but we're on this MR, which uh David, if you're listening, it would be have been cool to have some cross-reference links to the previous MR because I can't seem to find it, but that's fine. uh and I checked out the stuff locally by checking out the target branch and then applying the changes from the MR here so I can review the changes locally,
Uh-huh.
which I love doing. So one of the suggestions I left earlier was previously we created the Apollo client and stuff just outside of, there was no wrapping function. It was just part of the module. And I just said, hey, normally like we try not to use side effects in modules on import. So if we can wrap our Apollo client creation
Uh,
in a function, and then call that in our initializing function, that'd be great.
Yes. Before we jump into code, can we just with one sentence speak about what this MR is actually about? Because
yeah, that's a great question. So this MR, this is the backend stuff isn't done for this. So this is just one very small step of the UI to hook into some mock data.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So that's where you see it. I mean, this is some really interesting code. It's like, this is like test code. What's it doing here? But it's like, hey, this, if this helps build out the front end in parallel and very iteratively along with the back end while it's all under a feature flag, is like, yeah, put in mock data. That sounds helpful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think?
Yeah, I do. I do the same thing. What I do is I don't even know why. I usually don't commit mock data, but what I do is provide a patch to reviewers.
That's
Um,
really interesting. Yeah.
may like it could depend on the use case whether this thing is possible or not.
Yeah.
But like my classic use case is there's already an existing endpoint, but it will be from the backend be enhanced with like a superset of data, with more data coming in than we usually have. So
Right.
yeah, I would mock this, provide a patch. So I'll leave the existing code untouched,
Yeah.
not to have it not to litter or anything, but being able to review a mocked one.
I see. I like that approach. I'm I think as a reviewer, like I'm fine either way. If a team wants to commit mock data while you're building it out, and if that is helpful, like sure, like let's go for it. If patches are more helpful, then yeah, let's go for it. Patches can probably, I could see how that may allow you to be just provide so much data, and you also don't need those patches reviewed. It's like, oh, we changed something with the patch, so it's like, here's where the patch lives, and like, so all of that, I can see how that can have its benefits. But do you kind of do you think this is this something that you would leave up to the author's discretion and that team's discretion, or is this something that
Um, yeah, I would. I'm not too sure how bold I would want to have a comment that what we are currently looking at is mock data and supposed to be deleted. Like this is attention. This is not ready for production. That might be something, but in theory, I'm all with you. Like
yeah,
under given circumstances, it's okay to commit mock data.
yeah, um
I personally would probably agree a patch because I don't have to clean up afterwards. That's probably
yeah,
my
that's an
main
interesting
intent.
that is an interesting point. Yeah. uh yeah, that is an interesting point. One thing with this file that I'm noticing, so related to the mock data, uh, so this is round 2 of the review, and I'm anticipating that this is all going to be okay. But um, on the view component itself, pagination was implemented a little. I don't know if it was actually going to work. And as you can see in our mock data, we're only returning one item, so it's not like we even had the mock data to test out pagination. So I kind of just suggested with this at this level, let's just remove pagination until we can actually test it out. Um, but I see that the page info part of the data has been left behind. So it's not part of the query anymore, but it is part of the data. Uh, which this is not a big deal because this is all test code at this point. And uh as long as it doesn't just totally break things and make things inconvenient. Uh but I would say something like, we're not querying for page info anymore. So maybe we don't need to set this. Something like that. All right, let me go ahead and start the GDK so I can we can test this out. All right, there's our cool little query. All right, here is where we're making some. Let's look at this file. Let's look at the template first. So we have an alert if there's an error message. Dismissing goes to clearing the error message. Boom. Workspace has an empty state. If we don't have any workspaces, we're going to show the empty state. Else, this means if we do have workspaces, then we show our little header. And if we're loading,
You want me to say something that
yeah,
made me raise an eyebrow?
yes.
In line 95, the D minus flex class.
Ah,
What's that going to be?
that's bootstrap flex.
Mm-mm.
Man,
We don't do that like you, buddy.
I know who
Probably
invited
copy
you, Yannick.
pasting.
Why are you hating on our bootstrap? We're trying to slip to the product.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, we'll have to fix that. That's a good call. I want to flip-flops. I don't know why it's telling me. I want to learn the basics of Git. I'm a software developer, but I want to learn Git.
Cool.
What is GitLab? All right, let's sign out. Sign back into. I was clearly testing out system headers and footers. All right, here we go. Oh, look, it's the super sidebar. So you were right. We want to. Why do we even have this as flexed? Does not seem needed at all, right?
Yeah, you're moving slightly too quickly for me to really
Sorry.
follow, but it still seems all right.
So this is where the deflex was in the app.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Gotcha.
now I'm thinking we don't even need this.
It doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change anything.
Seems like. Oh, and then there's a table. Yeah, like, oh, okay, now I get it. Yeah, like it really seems, yeah, this is not great anyhow, but these classes are not going to change it. Okay, no, so it's only the heading in one container with the table underneath. So yeah, you can give it a flex, but you can also not give it a flex. Like it doesn't really.
Yeah, this doesn't need it.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to leave that as a comment. Good catch. Really good catch. I think part of me has started to just gloss over utility classes and it's just like
there's really a lot to be found.
I know there is
on those things.
All
like
right.
just the fact that we probably would have just like if this would have been a GL flex, I would probably have missed it as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even thought of removing these if it was all GL classes. I was like, sure, that's great. We try not to use bootstrap utility classes like the flex. Looks like all of these classes might not be needed here, since there's only one child. Bob. Okay. One interesting thing I'm noticing is that we won't be showing the loader unless we have workspaces.
That could be intentional, but it doesn't have to.
Right. I want to I want to force the loading state somehow. I don't know how to do that. How can I do that? Man, I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Maybe I could do that in the view browser thing. Do you think that's possible? In this
It'll probably be painful, I would argue. Like updating state in there is not let's see. Yeah, I was expecting that. I hate it. Like somewhere really at the back of my head, I feel like it is possible just by clicking in there to update state somewhere. Like there is a trick, but I just can't recall it.
All right. Yeah, it's not.
Let's update the component. I'd
right.
argue. I would.
All right.
That's what I'd do.
Let's do this then. Let's all right, I'm gonna just open up this file now. All right. That's not how code works. Okay. So let me replace the apollo.loading thing with is loading and see what happens.
Nothing's loading. Oh,
I'm
still okay. Yeah.
all right. So if we're loading, something tells me this isn't happening the way we anticipated to happen. And I don't even think GL table light even supports a loading bank here. So we're using GL table light. I don't think it supports a loading.
I do agree. I would need to double check. Like, reason this is making me laugh is I recently had a problem I tried to solve, where GL table light actually was the solution for, and I asked in GitLab UI, and people pointed me to GL table light, which I did not have on top of my hand. But it turns out, like a year ago or something, I actually introduced this component. So that was kind of funny that I had to.
Oh, nice. Nice. All right. I'm gonna so we're gonna have, so what I'm changing right now is we need to, rather than testing has workspaces here, I think we need to test if we're empty. And empty needs to include we don't have any workspaces and we're not loading. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. So then if we have workspaces or we're loading, we're in this category, which we can actually, rather than doing a div, we can make a template. We don't need to wrap it in another thing. And then what we'll do is if we're loading, and this has got to be v else, right? We're loading, we're gonna not have the table, right? Is that how we do it?
Sounds good to me.
So I still have loading where loading is forced. Let's go. Oh no, I broke it all. Oh no. How did I break it? What did I do?
Not rendering something. Let's
I
recheck the
know, I
condition.
broke it. List. We have is empty is false, and we're loading.
We're not even rendering the headline, aren't we? So the wait, what? The is empty. But if there's no headline, then we would be playing in line 95. Yeah, 95, isn't it?
All right.
Can we see this component in the view inspector, or is there any error on the console?
No errors on the console.
Okay.
And it's just not rendering anything. Because here it fails this. And I would thought it would do this. Maybe I don't need to wrap this in a template. Did I do this wrong? Oh no, it's not closed. I didn't close my template. Oh my goodness. Sorry, everybody. Yeah. You see this cool VS Code? Tomas Vic showed me this. You see how it's telling me where I am in the code with this sticky header at the top? So as I scroll up,
the script tag. Oh, cool.
Yeah. Forgot.
Okay, nice.
There's a cool setting you can set there. Okay.
Sticky DOM elements.
Yeah. All right. So now here's it loading. We don't. There it is loading.
It's a placeholder, not a spinner, isn't it? Or like, is that intentional? I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of loader we usually want to use.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there was a loader.
All right. Let me take a screenshot of this, and that's kind of maybe a question to ask. But then let me change this back to, I gotta go this Apollo.loading. Okay, boom, and we're back. And so then to test the other state, if we don't have any of this stuff, are we still showing the empty state?
Let's see.
Nice. Yep.
Cool.
All right. So let me go back to here, and I'm gonna leave this just as a as I think as a question of, I'm not sure if we're handling loading correctly, and here's I think what I would anticipate it being. All right. Okay. I'm not sure if we're presenting loading correctly. Hard to test when this query is loaded, since the data is hard coded. Not sure if we're presenting the loading correctly. As is, we show the loader above the table. If we were refreshing and loading a different page. Do we mean to show the loader instead of the table? Here's a patch for what I'd expect. Yes. So this hasn't some handful of changes, so I usually wrap it in a details thing. I hate having to type all of it out though. I wish GitLab was smarter at handling patches.
Mm.
Yeah. It's hard to test when this query is loaded since the data is hard to move to computed. This way I could set is loading to true. I could loading to true to test. Then the other thing is it looks like GL table light doesn't have a loading prop.
Let me quickly double check that.
What do you think? I think it'd be in the Bootstrap docs.
Yeah, good call.
I'm in
Because
Bootstrap docs.
I took a wrong turn. You're faster than me.
B table light.
Mhm.
Here it is. Properties. If I JKL, there's no L.
Yep.
That's how it
Nice.
goes. All right. All right. After this patch, if we're loading, it looks like this. That's the screenshot I took. There we go. Is this for skeleton lines what we expect? Is this what we normally use for table loading? Do we need UX here? That's my question. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. One last thing that I'm seeing. So let's keep going. We were here, so we pass in the fields and we have the items. We saw that that works, and then here's these different templates. Looks like when we man, yeah, if you weren't here, I was just blowing through the utility classes. I wasn't even looking at them. I was like, I don't care what these utility classes are. All right, but we're aligning icons, something you might be familiar with. Um, flex direction call. Oh yes. I guess because yeah. I guess we want something like this. Oh, so that these are then all stacking on each other. Okay. That's cool. Interesting. We have an item. Text gray. GL line items. Okay. Icon is a branch. There's the branch name. Great. Href. Target blank. Okay.
Reads good to me.
Yeah. One last thing that I see is for formatting the date, we're doing this time ago. And I don't think we use that as much. I think we have a new format date thing. You know?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But like it's yeah, no, okay. It is one of our shared utilities, so that should be okay.
Yes. Yes. So I see how it's confusing though. We have date time utility and then we have date format utility.
Mhm.
Um, I think we actually just put it in here like this. What do you think? Kind of weird, right?
Mhm.
You look like you don't like it.
No, I think I like the first version better.
Of,
But like
of
I'm
past.
trying, yeah, but I'm trying to find an argument to and I can't really think of one. Like they're
Well,
both.
the issue I have with this is that this actually has nothing to do with last used app. Like this is just about formatting a date, as I have
Mhm.
nothing to do with the last used language.
Mhm.
Um, so let me see if formatting the date works here. Oh no. Oh no.
There you go.
Okay, it's not doing time ago. It's just
Ah,
date.
okay. So it's just a different thing, kind of.
I guess so. Um, what I found, yeah, I guess so. Okay, yeah. All right. To me, it's not a big deal, and we don't have to fix it here. But I would just, oh man, I went back too far. All right, I'm just gonna undo all my changes. But I'm not gonna make a change. I'm just gonna ask. I'm just gonna do a little non-blocking polish thing of this method actually doesn't have anything to do with last use. Just formatting. I think maybe we want to call this format date.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So moving on, we renamed this spec. We put it in a different folder to align with the component. And then here is the spec for the list that we have. So looking at this spec that we have here, empty state when no workspaces are available, shows table when workspaces are available, displays user workspaces correctly. Row, find component, href and stuff. What do you think, man?
Looking solid, I'd say.
Okay. Okay.
I don't, yeah, nothing to mention from my side anymore, other than the things mentioned.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm gonna test out the coverage of this. Um so let me close this out by removing
How
some template stuff and seeing what happens.
good call. That's a good one.
So yeah, we're not really testing the loading state. Um
Wow. I'll keep that with me. That is so clever. Because like when I do have the same question on my reviews, I usually really not necessarily line by line, but kind of have like tests and code next to each other and check what is actually being covered. Just more or less randomly removing things seems much more efficient and waiting for
oh
things to
yeah.
go.
Yeah. Uh yeah,
Uncovered? Oh,
there's a lot of ways that we can approach this. I'm wanting to I'm wanting to not be neurotic. I can get neurotic about it. And so knowing that about myself, I'm trying to think what would someone who's not neurotic do?
Nice.
And I'm hitting a wall. But one of the things I'm tempted to want to leave. So to me, all right, let's go way back. The template is a great place to start with what is covered in a test and not in view components. So that's all great. The other thing I'm realizing I can get really neurotic about is I have a way of like testing tables that I really, really like, but it might not be really intuitive. But I end up creating a finder that, yeah, we find the rows, but then I like serialize the rows into a data object. So I like create a very fancy finder. It's like, okay, for each one of the rows, this is what we expect from this one. We're going to find this component. And so then I have like an object that I pulled from each one of the rows. So I end up with like an array. And I can actually just say, find table rows as data equals mock group workspace nodes or something like that. So it's like rather than just saying, oh, was the text contained at all? But I think this is fine. Well, actually, now I'm looking at it. We don't usually do expectations in like loops like this. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think I am going to suggest that we do this thing as well. All right, and then we'll then it's time to go. Well, it might be time to go right now. What do you think? Do you think we gotta head to pairing time? Probably do. We gotta be on time for meetings. It's important to do that.
Yeah, and I need to run. There's no paying for me today. Say
All
hi to
right.
the folks.
All right. Well, yeah.
Looking
So
forward to next week.
I'll leave this small little comment, but yeah, then we reviewed this thing together, and that was fun. Yeah, it took a while because we had a good conversation about it, but that was good. Well,
Thank you. Have a good
thanks for
one.
everything, Yannick.
I'll speak to you soon.
Appreciate it. Bye.